All right, everyone. Um, Welcome. Happy Monday, especially Monday of a holiday week. Thank you for joining us today. This conversation might feel a little different than our usual MMUs. It's very informal, very casual, but we just wanted to take a moment to check in with our community, see how everyone's feeling now that we've had a chance to digest the election and the election results, and then also make sure that everyone knows how to plug in, particularly because in this season that we're in, we're about to hit the holidays. It'll be very busy on a personal level. And then we'll have about 2 weeks in December to be fully plugged in before legislative session starts in January 8th. So now is the perfect time to get grounded, understand how you want to contribute, understand our legislative priorities, and then get energized and rebooted for heading into session. So, closed captioning. Can you give the spiel, Mustafa?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I want to make sure that for everyone, this meeting, this call is easy to follow. So you can actually turn on closed captions by selecting the closed captions icon. If you're on your computer, it should be located on the toolbar on the bottom right-hand side. So you should be able to select closed captions and turn that on. Um, if you are on a mobile device, if you don't see a closed caption button, you'll need to select the three black dots on your screen on the toolbar on the bottom right hand side, and then you'll want to toggle and turn on the closed captions in your settings, as you can see on the screenshot here. If you're having just any difficulty doing so, or just any tech difficulties, you can feel free to directly message me in the Zoom chat for the duration of the call. And that's it.
Perfect. So our agenda today, first, we're doing the welcome and introductions. Now we will spend a little bit more time than usual on introductions because I want to give everyone who wants to introduce themselves some time. Again, today is a day to build community and learn more about each other. Then we'll talk a little bit about CCAN's record of wins. Jamie has a video for us that we'll watch with him explaining all that was accomplished, particularly in 2016. Then we'll dive into our priority legislation a little bit. And I really want to lean heavily on any questions you have about our priority legislation, because I know you've got in the top lines many times. And now that you've had time to ruminate over it, anything you want to know as we get closer to session. And then last but not least, how to plug in. So introductions. I'll start and then Mustafa, and then I want to open the floor for anyone who wants to participate. If you could introduce yourself with your name, your pronouns, the city that you're calling in from today, and one thought or bright spot on being on the back end of the election. So my name is Brittany Baker. Most of you probably know by now, I'm the new Maryland Director for Chesapeake Climate Action Network. I'm calling in from Tacoma Park, Maryland. That's where I live. And lots of thoughts and bright spots. One is most of you probably know as well that Jamie is now our contract lobbyist. He works for CCAN and Energy Foundation now, and I'm just really glad to have his partnership and very comforted to know that all of his diligence, work, and expertise is not being lost to our community, but it'll just be directed in a new way. Also today, I had a very robust meeting with Chair Wilson from Economic Matters. And so now I'm starting to see all of the work that we've been putting in this fall, how it's going to unfold for session, and that feels really good. So Mustafa next, and then we'll open up the floor.
Hi, so Mustafa, he, him. I'm the Director of Campaigns and Strategies at CCAN, and I live about a mile from the Tacoma Park office in DC. I live in DC. And then a bright spot is, of course, the results are not what we wanted with the election. However, we had our first large scale volunteer calling program that started 3 months out before the election. And they called over 200,000 individuals in Pennsylvania, voters in Pennsylvania, which is a massive number of calls to make to individuals, particularly given that this is a still relatively our electoral program and it's in its infancy stage. And that's a big kudos, I know, to a few people that are on this call who spent many Wednesday and Tuesday nights joining phone banks.
All right, now the floor is everyone's. Feel free to share. Introduce yourself. We want to get to know you. We want to build community.
Hi, my name is Sandy Bell, and I'm with the Maryland chapter of the National Organization for Women. And Brittany, I met you on Saturday at Imla. I have been involved in environmental work for a long, long time. I actually testified before the legislature years ago for the wind farm off the coast of Ocean City, and also with the public, what is it, something commission.
Public Service Commission.
Yeah, Public Service Commission. I testified there too. So I'm really happy to see that it's finally moving now, and happy to be here and to continue working for a better environment for everybody.
Thank
Oh, a bright spot. Bright spot is that the amendment to the Constitution to give women bodily autonomy passed by 74%, which is even more than when we codified Roe some years ago. That was in the 60s. So that was good news.
Wow.
Um, if I could be ready to go next. I'm Aaron Oldenburg, volunteering here for a while, but haven't been able to for the last few months due to the semester starting and parenting. So I'm really happy to be back. Bright spot, lots of local wins, Baltimore and Maryland, like Question H and like what Sandy mentioned. So that was good. Yeah.
Thank
Question
you
H
for
not
sharing,
passing.
Aaron.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right. Yeah, I'm a parent as well. Another parent who wants to go next.
Hi, this is Ann Difler. I'm a parent of a college student, and she, her, and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I co-clerk the my Friends Meeting Climate Action Work Group. And I'd like to see us do some sort of policy action in the coming year, in addition to our sort of grassroots efforts at sustainability that we have going on in our community. And bright spot for me is I sent him an email. I don't know if he got it, but I thought that that the message that Mike Tidwell sent out the day after the election was really hopeful for me because I was really despairing. And when I read what he said about that he found it, hopeful that we live in the DMV and that we have taken actions to address climate change. And we did before when Trump was elected, and we're going to continue to do that. And that was like a strand of hope that I just held on to in my despair. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure Mike did get your email. All of the emails we send, if you respond, we really do get it.
Okay, I'll jump in. Steve Woodbury, he, him, his. I'm in Mitchellville at the Collington Life Care Retirement Community and vice chair of our Climate Action Committee. A lot of our focus is on trying to get our campus greener. I think a real bright and encouraging spot is where we're joining with more than a dozen other life care communities around the country in sharing information about energy audits or other things to proceed on, electric vehicle charging stations, things we can work with our administration to implement. And I think this is a real opportunity. Besides working on our own campus, we do have a focus on advocacy. So I'm interested in, a couple of key issues we might get folks involved in for Maryland.
Great, thank you for sharing. Aileen, feel free.
Hi, my name is Eileen Kerfman, and I am new with this group. I moved to Boonesboro, Maryland from Shepherdstown, West Virginia in 2023. While living in Shepherdstown, I was involved with the effort to try to prevent the Rockwool factory from coming into Jefferson County, which it had the success of getting people much more aware, so I don't think anything like that is going to happen again. But there is a factory there, and they're spewing stuff into the air and the water, and quality of life in the neighborhood is not as good as it was. That said, CCAN was wonderfully helpful to our group in that fight. I've also been very active in the West Virginia Sierra Club, and even though I've moved across the Potomac, I'm still somewhat active with that group. Haven't got moved over to Maryland yet. But I'm feeling like I live here now, and I want to know what some of the issues are here, what people are doing about them, and to get a picture of where I could fit in. I didn't mention my pronouns. I'm she, her.
Thank you for sharing, and I'm glad you're staying involved with CCAN from West Virginia to Boonesboro. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do at least 2 more.
Well, I'm Glenn Rayview. My pronouns are he, him, and I've been working with the CCAN electrification group for the last 6 or 8 months or so. And I guess for me, the bright spot is seeing all the tremendous energy that went into this election effort, even though it was not successful. And if we can put that much effort into something, we can certainly put a similar effort into working on climate issues. And I want to see what I can do to help out in that effort.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, one more person to speak up, and then we'll move along.
Hi, I'm Becky St. John from Gaithersburg, Maryland. She, her. And I'm a co-chair leader of CCL out in Gaithersburg. And bright spot is we've been here before, we got through it, and we might not make any headway in the Fed, but we will make it in the state. So a lot of us are just going to focus that way and keep on doing our lobbying, and 4 years is going to go fast. I pray.
Right. Thank you, Becky. And that was actually a really good transition into what I have to say, because yes, now is the time to remember that states have power. One of the reasons that our country is set up the way that it is so that we can have a balance of power, whether that's between different branches of government or versus the state versus the federal level. And we all know we're getting resigned into the facts that yes, our fight is going to be more challenging in the years ahead. It's going to be very complex in the years ahead. And also, CCAN was already committed to revenue raisers, but now revenue raisers are more important than ever because we can't necessarily depend on federal funds supporting our climate goals. But states are uniquely positioned to win in a time like this. You know, states have always been the ones in charge of regulating the utilities. We've always been the ones setting the clean energy and renewable energy standards. We've always regulated emissions from fossil fuel generating facilities. We've always had the ability to set building codes. And we also have the ability to create vehicle emission standards that are more strict than the federal level, at least right now. And so states have always been the backbone and the most ambitious piece of the climate movement. And so we'll just continue to do that. So really quickly, I want to share a video that Jamie recorded for us with some big wins. As you all know, I started with CCAN in July, but Jamie was with the team for many, many years. And so he wanted to share some big wins we had in 2016, last time Trump was elected. So let me share that video. Oh, is this the one? I apologize. That was the wrong video. That was from our last meeting. While I'm pulling it up, does anyone else want to introduce themselves?
I will introduce myself. I'm Jim Cockey, Salisbury, Maryland, Eastern Shore, and my involvement in environmental means it's largely through faith-based organizations, through my church and through the interfaith partnership for the Chesapeake. And my bright spot is my awareness that many conservative congregations in the area are increasingly interested and motivated to take care of the environment, to join more liberally minded congregations and churches and individuals in that effort. So I think there's a lot of potential for reaching, forming partnerships with people that we may disagree with on other political issues.
Thank you, Jim. And the video is ready now, but I will hold space if anybody else wants to introduce themselves. Okay, let's watch the video then.
Hi, I'm so glad that we are on tonight talking about the importance of carrying the ball forward in a post-Trump world in the Central Atlantic, because we know our region is not going for Trump, and we still have leaders who are going to fight for climate solutions. And we actually think they're going to fight harder because of what's happening at the federal level, not less hard. And because that's exactly what we saw last time. When Trump was elected in 2016, following that election, the Central Atlantic, Maryland, Virginia, DC, CCAN Action Fund, and CCAN's region, we had kind of a golden age of local climate policy. I think in those years were the years we passed the most transformative legislation at the local level to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And coming right out of the gate, the first thing we did in 2017 in Maryland is we banned fracking with a legislative mandate. This remains the only state in the entire nation where fracking, Maryland is the only state with gas reserves where fracking has been banned through legislation. And that is an incredible feat. And we all worked really hard to make that possible. It was even supported by Republican Governor Larry Hogan. That tells you how powerful our movement was, that we were getting Republicans to talk about keeping fossil fuels in the ground. That, like I said, was 2017, the first session immediately after Trump was elected. We're hoping for a similar jolt of energy at the local level to pass some really big bills and stick it to Trump and carry the ball forward here in Maryland, even as they're trying to take us backwards at the federal level. We also passed Maryland's landmark clean energy bill, the Maryland Clean Energy Jobs Act, which passed in 2019. It continues to be the standard bearer in Maryland, the bedrock. We know we make tweaks to it often, but it is the bedrock that is powering wind and solar development in Maryland. And it passed during the Trump administration with a really ambitious solar carve out, really ambitious offshore wind development, all of that made possible by the progressive push that came after Trump was elected the first time. Unfortunately, it had some dirty energy sources in it that we wanted to take out. But the good news is that this year, President Bill Ferguson, our Senate president in Maryland, is introducing a bill to take trash incineration out of the Maryland Clean Energy Jobs Act. So we are going to finish the job this year by finally taking trash out of the RPS and changing the RPS and lots of other ways to make the renewable portfolio standard better in Maryland and help more wind and solar and batteries get built faster and more equitably. But this bill remains the driving force of nearly all clean energy development in the state of Maryland. We also saw a dramatic expansion of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. During this time, Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is kind of like a cap and trade system for greenhouse gas emissions from the power sector in all of these states. Pennsylvania and Virginia are kind of in and out depending on who's in power, but all these other states are solidly in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI. And we saw a re-upping of commitment to RGGI during the Trump years and a lowering of the cap, increasing of ambition to lower emissions from the power sector faster through this policy. And so that affected all of these states. And in Virginia, we passed perhaps the most ambitious climate legislation that CCAN has ever worked on, the most ambitious climate legislation ever passed in the South, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which required the entire state of Virginia to achieve 100% clean electricity generation, which is just mind-boggling, the level of ambition, sort of mandating requirement of all the coal plants and eventually all the gas plants in the state, along with dramatic build out of wind, solar, and batteries. Just a masterpiece of legislation. It passed in 2020, in like February of 2020. So it was just under the line before legislatures were all shut down. It continues to affect the state today. The biggest offshore wind farm in the nation is being built in Virginia right now, thanks to this legislation. And lastly, in DC, we passed the Clean Energy DC Act, an incredible bill. We passed that one in 2018. And that was at the time the most ambitious clean energy climate legislation in the nation. It set a renewable portfolio standard goal of 100% by 2032, the strongest in the nation. It also established the first building energy performance standards in the nation. Building energy performance standards require large buildings to reduce their emissions, large existing buildings. And that policy has since spread like wildfire to jurisdictions across the country, but this was the first time it was ever enacted, along with a charge on gas that was used to go to decarbonizing buildings and set up a green bank. It was just a beautiful bill. So that passed in 2018. The Maryland Clean Energy Jobs Act passed in 2019. The Virginia Clean Economy Act passed in 2020. So we kind of had a hat trick triple year, where in the three states and regions and districts where we operate, Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we really went through and passed really, really ambitious bills in each of them during this period. And I don't think at any point in our history in the 20 years leading up to that, we had had quite that concentration of really significant bills passing before. So I just wanted to share that with all of you and say that we have done great things before in a post-Trump world, and we plan to do great things again in this post-Trump world. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. So, I mean, that's exactly right. That's the energy we're going into session with, that we can do big things, we can do difficult things, and we are not slowed down by the federal situation. Now, we are adapting to it, we are being aware of it, and we do need to change up our talking points a bit to cater to the new situation, but we're not going to back down. So I'm pulling up my slides again. Give me just one moment. In the meantime, someone else can introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Rich Reese. I'm in the city of Baltimore and very active, especially with the local Greater Baltimore group, the Sierra Club. We're doing great things for transportation, more buses, electric school buses. So we're seeing some progress, especially at the local level as well as at the state level.
Awesome. Thank you. So again, we're not backing down, but we are approaching the context in front of us with open eyes and wisdom. And so we know that going into legislative session, there are some pieces to the context that we have to really speak to in a clear way. And one of those pieces is what happened in the past capacity market auction from our regional grid operator. And so our regional grid operator is called PJM, and they control all the electricity that comes into Maryland. And one thing they do in order to ensure that we will have electricity in the future is they hold capacity market auctions. But unfortunately, this most recent auction, due to a number of factors, one of them being that they downgraded their fossil fuel generation sites because they said, wow, they're not performing as well in extreme weather as we thought they would. And so for a number of reasons, the capacity market price went up. And so now, particularly legislators, because almost everyone in Maryland, but specifically it's going to be really bad in the Baltimore area, all of our utility bills are going up starting next summer. And so legislators are really, really upset and they want to respond. But the situation is we need to encourage them to respond with the continued build out of our clean energy future and not to use old tools in order to respond to the capacity market situation. Another piece of the context as we go into session, most legislators and in particularly leadership is thinking about three things. One, the evolving federal situation and its impact on Maryland. We think about this from our climate standpoint, like what's going to happen with the IRA, or will we still have federal partnership on climate initiatives? But really, everyone is thinking about this. When I attend the nonprofits call with nonprofit groups all across the state that touch various issue areas, all of them are saying, wow, we don't know what's going to happen with the new federal situation. But compounding that, Maryland actually is experiencing a structural deficit. And this deficit is expected to get worse before it gets better. And so that is really top of mind for leadership. How are we going to cover all of our expenses and do it in a way that doesn't raise taxes and doesn't hurt Marylanders? And then last but not least, just as I was discussing with the capacity market auction, there's a lot of conversation around the cost of living and utility bills going up. So in considering that context, our legislative priorities are both catered to solving the needs of the current situation and continuing forward in our clean energy future. And so number one, we all know the Renew Act. It is part of a revenue raising package that the environmental groups are presenting to the governor and also to the General Assembly, because we want to raise revenue both to solve our structural deficit, but also that have at least pieces of dedicated funding for climate projects. And so the Renew Act is unique because it is only charging the 40 largest, most polluting fossil fuel companies for their historical emissions. And all of the economists we have consulted with agree that this bill will not have an impact on Marylanders, and there will be no consumer pass-through on this bill. And so the other thing that's really exciting about the Renew Act is it establishes the Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation Fund, which includes qualified expenditures, which are touch a lot of different issue areas in the state. So some of the qualified expenditures include health resource equity communities, Medicaid, heat pumps for schools, DNR's whole watershed program. They're much more varied in comparison to other climate funds we have in the state, such as the SEAF, which is the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. I apologize if I'm ever using too many acronyms. Make sure you put in the chat, Brittany, what does that mean? Because sometimes I forget that I need to explain myself more thoroughly. The other bill that we're really excited about and working with Delegate Charkoudian on is the Affordable, Abundant, Clean Energy Act, which you see here notarized as ACE. And so this bill really began as a goal of writing a bill that would get us to 100% clean energy. But what we found is that on the way to 100% clean energy, there are some tweaks that need to be made to make sure that the clean energy that we're striving for is helping to solve Maryland's load problem, Maryland's energy prices. And so we reworked the bill to make sure that everything that's happening in ACE is increasing the amount of clean energy generated in state, and also doing everything we can, including using some really innovative methods that aren't used in other states to make sure ratepayers are benefiting from future clean energy success. And then the last bill that we're really excited about is the Better Buildings Act. This will be the third year that the Better Buildings Act is being considered in the General Assembly. And the Better Buildings Act, of course, is Maryland's chance to have all electric new construction and to make sure that we're decarbonizing the building sector in an ambitious and equitable way. And so one piece before I open up for questions about our legislative priority is I really want us all to refocus in a sense and rethink in a sense, because especially a lot of you on the call I recognize from our lobby training. One thing that we need to start hammering home is that our task is to make sure that all of these bills are solving Maryland's problems. And we need to do a better job of uplifting the tangible benefits of the legislation. So how is this affecting utility bills? How is this making our cost of living go down? How is this solving our structural deficit? We really have to bring those issues to the forefront in our conversations with legislators. And of course, the climate impacts are important to us. The greenhouse gas reductions are important to us. But also, we need to do more work communicating the bridge between what's happening right now and the clean energy future that we're all solving for. So with that, I'll pause for a moment for any questions on the priority legislation.
Brittany, could you just repeat what AACE stands for again?
Sure. Abundant, affordable, clean energy.
Thanks.
Brittany, may I
And what
mention
is
one
ABA?
of the Sierra Club's priorities, or
Sure,
maybe that's
yeah.
out of line?
I know exactly what you're going to mention. The bottle bill?
No, actually, I was going to mention, since I'm the transportation chair on the Greater Baltimore group, I'm going to mention the Transportation Climate Alignment Act. And what it's going to do is, if they are building more lanes, they have to also build out the transit network and bicycling and walking networks to compensate for the additional greenhouse load caused by additional lanes. So specifically, especially around 270 and 495.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. And to that point, so these three priorities are CCAN's legislative priorities in the sense that these are the bills that we're working the hardest and leading the coalitions. But there are also some bills that we're supporting, and then others that we're watching. So these aren't by any means all of the climate related bills that will be considered this session, but these are the ones that we are most focused on passing. Any other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, let me just say that your priority bills are also some of our priority bills. So there's sort of like a Venn diagram of there's a lot of overlap.
Thank you. True. Eileen?
Just wondering what kind of opposition these bills will encounter in the legislature. In West Virginia, of course, a big fossil fuel state, we're really up against Goliath. Will there be an active lobby from the gas industry with regard to the all electric buildings, for instance, or well, that's a good example, or clean energy generation sources that will be built in the state of Maryland. Is there any pushback from the local electric companies about that?
Yes, for sure. We do have to fight against fossil fuel interests, 100%. The lucky thing is we're starting to hear murmurings that the utilities are not going to fight Better Buildings Act this year. So that's some good news. But yes, we will have to wrestle with a lot of fossil fuel interests to get these bills passed, for sure. John?
Hi, I was wondering about the amount, the price tag on the Renew Act, the 900 million a year or $9 billion for 10 years. Where does that figure come from?
Thank you for asking that, John. So John is referring to the bill language from last year. And actually, in consultation with our bill sponsor, Senator Hester, we have decided to pivot this year. And now our bill language looks more similar to Vermont's bill language. They passed the bill last year, and New York passed the bill last year as well. And so now, instead of having that 9 billion number, we're commissioning MDE, the Comptroller's Office, and the Treasurer to do a study to quantify the impact of climate change in Maryland. And from that study, that number will be the total assessment to the 40 companies. So we no longer have that 9 billion language. Mustafa?
Hey, Brittany, we just got a couple questions here in the chat.
Oh, great.
So what does it mean regarding the Better Buildings Act, what does it mean for buildings to be EV ready?
So again, that's actually related to last year's language. Oh, I apologize. It's still on the slide though. So we just got the bill ready for this year. We've submitted it to drafting and we don't have the LR back quite yet, but we've decided to take the EV ready language out. But I'll explain solar ready because that's still in the bill. So solar ready means we're not mandating that everyone put solar panels on their roof, but instead we're saying there are certain things you can do to make your roof ready for solar panels. For example, making sure there are no obstructions on the roof, maybe having a certain pitch, making sure that you have an inverter already in the side of your house. And so any readiness language means that if someone were to choose to do something, or if something was to be mandated, for example, solar panels, EV, or even there's other bills can have electric ready language. saying that once, for whatever reason, the homeowner is ready, everything that's needed is already available.
Brittany, I think the question may have been, what does that unidentified acronym mean? EV.
Oh, electric vehicle.
Some of us know that and some of us don't.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
And another question, Brittany, from Scott is, will the Renew Act be challenged on constitutional grounds? What do we know about the legal challenges that have come before, the states that have passed this, and does this present any legal concerns to you?
Thank you for asking that question, Scott. So we have been in conversation with the team at University of Maryland Environmental Law Center. And we've answered all the constitutional questions about the Renew Act. The legal foundation is solid, but we do expect once enough of these bills pass that fossil fuel interests will try to challenge these bills in court. The question is, who will they challenge? So as I explained earlier, Vermont and New York already passed their climate superfund legislation. We're considering it now, California as well, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Minnesota. New Jersey is the furthest along. I believe their bill hearing is December 12th. Great question, Scott. I appreciate it.
Brittany, one more question about the Renew Act. Does it specifically state that there shall be no gas hookup and no gas meter on new buildings?
Better Buildings Act?
Yes, I'm sorry, the Better Buildings Act. I meant that.
No problem. So it does not explicitly state that because of the Berkeley challenge. And also there's been lawsuits filed against the all electric new construction bills that Montgomery County passed and the one that DC passed. And so we did choose to use language that was a little bit less restrictive. The bill language says all new buildings will need to meet their space and water heating requirements without the use of fossil fuels. Mustafa?
I just wanted to chime in to say, just for those who are not aware, the Berkeley reference that Brittany made, it was in effect, right, that Berkeley passed, the city of Berkeley passed legislation that essentially de facto banned gas hookups. Is that correct, Brittany? And then that was the basis for the Constitution, for the legal challenge,
Right.
that they could do that.
Okay, thank you all for diving into that with me. And of course, if you have any questions about the legislation, no matter how small, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer questions. And of course, we're open to feedback. So the last thing I want to do today is
before you go on,
go ahead.
I found this very helpful. What I would find further helpful would be fact sheets explaining in more detail each of the three bills that CCAN's working on, and a list of the other climate bills that are also going on, what they are, what they would do, so that we can maybe pick some to work on, but have a clear idea of what they are. So that would be helpful pretty soon.
Yes, for sure. You'll get fact sheets from us extremely soon. We were just waiting on finalized bill language. And then I have a log of all of the legislation that I've been hearing about. I'll share that relatively soon as well. But of course, unless the bills are pre-filed, we won't have links or know that legislators are definitely dropping the bills until session starts. So that's early January. Okay, so last but not least tonight, why get plugged in? So it's really important, as we were stating today, legislators really like to hear from their constituents. And not only do they want to hear from their loudest constituents, but they want to hear from the quiet constituents as well. And the more that you can communicate with them and let them know your priorities, that really informs their voting in particular. Now, committee chairs are a little bit more difficult to move one way or the other, but committee members really respond from hearing from Marylanders. So if you're looking for opportunities to get plugged in, here are some of the opportunities. So number one, sign up to be a lobby captain. Our lobby captains will be the ones shepherding all of us as we move into session and helping to coordinate lobby teams to make sure that your lobbying is most effective by having a team with you to advocate for the bills. Also, sorry about that little typo, but it says email your legislators now. In just a moment, of course, I'll say bye first, but anybody who wants to stay on the call a little bit longer, there is a call to action tonight. There are a lot of legislators who are starting to think that adding a new natural gas plant in Maryland would solve our energy crisis and help to lower utility bills. We need to let them know that is not the answer we're looking for. Also, the first day of session rally will be on January 8th. Feel free to mark your calendars. You know you'll get emails from us soon with more information about the first day of session action. But if you want to go ahead and mark your calendar so you don't make other plans that day, that would be wonderful. And then the two last items are Lobby Day, February 13th. And Quentin sent out an email today about the event on the screen, which is next week at George Washington University. And it's sponsored by the group, the national group that has been working together on the Polluters Pay movement. So our Renew Act is part of the Polluters Pay movement. Mustafa, you want to jump in with any thoughts about getting plugged in?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add, which all this will be in a follow-up email to all of you, is that we're doing a story of self-training and training. In other words, like you're sort of developing your climate story, why addressing the climate crisis is important to you. What are the moments in your life where you have made the choice to get plugged into this fight, and the results of that, the outcomes of that, and how it's connected to these issues that you're really passionate about. And so we're going to be doing that on December 9th. We'll include a link for signing up for that in the follow-up email. It will be from 7 to 8:30. Storytelling is the most critical tool actually for doing organizing work, for mobilizing other people to take action. It's also a fundamental building block of doing really great community-based lobbying, talking to your legislators. I tend to find from my own experience that legislators are not necessarily going to remember the facts that you tell them in a meeting, but they'll remember how you made them feel, and they'll remember your story. So, so you should, if you're interested in doing any lobbying and you particularly haven't done it before, you haven't really told your story before, come to that training and we'll get you plugged in to our lobbying program.
Thank you, Mustafa. I'll leave this up for just one more moment in case anyone's writing down dates. But again, Mustafa and I will send out all of this information via email. Okay, so last but not least, I would like to take a moment to say bye to anyone who doesn't want to participate in this action. Thank you for joining us tonight, but anyone who would like to stay, let's take the time to look up our legislators and email them. And so we have some model language on the screen, but feel free to use whatever language you would like. Essentially, the point we want to emphasize is that clean energy is a solution, and that although we know they're dealing with multiple pressures this year, including the structural deficit and rising energy bills, we really want them to stay committed to our clean energy transition and stay committed to the climate mandates that we've already set. So I'll stick around for a moment to answer any questions or support your hard work. But everyone who would like to participate, let's go ahead and email our legislators.
Yeah, Brittany, if you are able to copy and paste that language into the chat, that might
Sure.
help some folks.
Yeah.
And they'll also will put in the chat a link to look up your legislator in case you don't know. Thanks everybody for joining.
I'm going to stop my screen share for a moment so I can put the language in the chat, if that's okay with everyone. And I see your your message, Steve. I'm taking down your email now.
Okay.
As you all are sending the email, unfortunately, I live in DC, so I can't send it. But um, as a demonstration of how the work in Maryland that we do in Maryland really matters, even beyond Maryland. Um, our team and Mike Tidwell worked with Senator Chris Van Hollen to do the original sponsoring of the Make Polluters Pay legislation in the Senate. And that's a big reason why it's taken off in the states that Brittany talked about. And not only is it taking off there, but we've filed the legislation in Virginia. Partners have gotten excited about it in Virginia because they heard about it in Maryland, and in DC, where we're constantly facing a budget challenges and budget shortfalls. This will eventually become a priority later this year. And so we're all kind of looking to Maryland and seeing what Maryland does. No pressure.
Thank you, Mustafa. I know. Oops.
Is there a charge for the December 3rd event?
I'm not sure. Let me look it up.
I have not RSVP'd for it myself, but I'm not seeing a charge. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, right now I don't see a charge. I'll put the link in the chat.
Hi, Arlene.
Yeah, I didn't see one. I didn't see a charge on there, but I didn't register. So maybe if you register, it might come up. I don't know.
Okay.
Hi, this is Arlene. I just wondered, the Piedmont issue that I'm hearing about is that would that relate to this new methane gas generation, or is that's not the same thing, right? Or
No, that's not related. So the
no?
pipeline is a transmission line that PJM has planned for that pretty much goes across the state. The best source of information on the Piedmont line is produced by the OPC, actually. I'll pull it up and put it in the chat. CCAN's position on Piedmont is that it seems that this transmission line wasn't well thought out and also doesn't have a lot of benefits for Marylanders, even though it goes across our state in a very audacious way. But we do recognize that transmission is part of the clean energy future. So we're not against transmission lines in a broad sense, but we are curious to know more about Piedmont's potential benefits. And so far, we haven't found a lot of benefits for Marylanders.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So it's the top of the hour. Again, thank you for the robust discussion today. I hope that everyone really felt that they had a chance to participate and share thoughts, share feedback, and ask questions. Again, I'm here anytime. If you need me, feel free to reach out. I'll stay on for a few more minutes while we're wrapping up our emails.
Brittany, I have a quick question. So are you gonna have, I thought that Jamie had monthly meetings for people from Maryland who are interested in joining in your efforts. Is that, maybe you said that in the beginning, I joined a little late. Is that your intention to have these meetings monthly?
Yes, we do plan to have monthly meetings. Mustafa can share a little bit more about that because he does most of the
Yeah.
coordination for the meetings.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna Brittany and I are gonna think about the schedule just for the legislative session and when it's gonna be best to do these monthly. Um and so we'll have it monthly starting in January. We're also gonna we are gonna round it out on December 12th. So we'll do one more in December. I have one more conversation and we're gonna continue to use that as an opportunity to build towards um, organizing for our lobbying program in January. Um, but if there, so we'll have that monthly call. We would love to like make sure that you all are feeling in the loop and being proactively supported in your climate advocacy. So if there's anything else you would like to suggest in terms of regular communication with folks who are highly engaged like yourselves, I would be really happy to hear what would be helpful to you throughout session.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say one quick thing for now that I just joined in the Quakers had their annual um Quaker Public Policy Institute in at the end of November, or actually it was mid-November, it was after the election. And they have just, I don't know if you're familiar, but for years they have an annual basis brought together um, members of the Quaker community from across the United States to lobby up on the Hill during this meeting.
Mhm.
And they usually have a theme. And then since the pandemic, they also have done some online lobbying efforts at the same time. And so this year they had 150 people physically going up to the Hill to lobby. And the theme this year was against sending further aid to Israel for the in the war against Hamas. And then a group of us did an online action, which was to write letters. And it was really effective because, when I get those emails here and there and, you know, write a letter. I think, oh yeah, when I get home from shopping, I'll write my letter and then I forget. But this was like a focused, concentrated time, just like tonight. I think that's great. I'm in the process of sending my emails to my state legislators. So if you could do something like that, because some people might not be able to commit to actually going to Annapolis and lobby,
Yeah.
but they would get together for an hour meeting. If you gave them the text of a letter and how to look up their legislators, they would write, you know, that's just an idea. Maybe you've done something like that before, but you know, and then there's a ripple effect. I turned around, I participated in that action, and then I turned around and went to my community and told them how to do the same thing. And I said, you know, 50 people sitting here in this
Yeah.
church today, if, you know, all of you go home and, you know, you can write same letter that I just did. So, and then, you know, Bernie Sanders called out the Friends Committee on National Legislation in his floor remarks on, you know, the effectiveness of the lobbying that he received on this issue. So anyway, just a suggestion.
Yeah, and I would love to. I'll send you a follow-up email tomorrow, and we can schedule time to talk. I have thought about for this session in January starting a climate defenders program or something. I don't know, something like that, but just like a weekly or bi-weekly hour or 2 hours where we could have an action that people can come on and do, whether it's like calling or letter writing.
Mhm.
Well, I'm just thinking it sounds like that's something you might be interested in helping make happen. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, I'd love to chat with
Possibly.
you.
Yeah, yeah, and I could
Okay.
go back to my committee too and see if anyone else on the committee is interested.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've made a note here, so we will schedule time and we'll talk in December.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I know Jamie he attends our Quaker Meet Adelphi
Oh,
Friends
God.
meeting.
Like-minded, good troublemakers.
Yeah, exactly. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. That's really great. I'm glad that you're excited about that, Ann.
Yeah, well, it's hopeful. We
Yeah,
need hope right now.
absolutely.
All right.
And in the words of Mother Jones, don't mourn, organize.
Yeah, there
Right.
you go.
See, that's the way to end it. Now we have to go because those are closing words.
Thank you all for doing this tonight.
Thank you again. Thank you for attending. We appreciate you all. Every single meeting, we appreciate you all over again. Have a nice night and a happy holiday as well.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks,
Happy
Brittany.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. Great. Cool. Yeah, I'll draft a follow-up email and then tomorrow morning, if you could just take a look at it tomorrow morning, just double check and make sure there's not anything stupid in there.
Okay. Are you working tomorrow? Are you coming to the office?
I'm coming to the office tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, cool.
All right. See
I'll
you.
see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.